So welcome everyone to the Musings on Music Sublingual Sessions 2 webinar hosted by PRATI. So grateful that you're all here sharing your evening with us. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. The last time we did this was, I had fun. We got some good feedback. It's just so cool and inspiring and exciting to talk about music and share this with the community. So really happy that you're all here joining us. And I am going to have no idea how many other people are in the room because I can't even see that anymore. So I'm just imagining a growing virtual auditorium. So I'm gonna treat it like that. So welcome on behalf of PRATI. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with PRATI. I imagine some of you have maybe been through our trainings. Perhaps some folks are just engaging with PRATI for the first time, and if so, welcome. A little background on PRATI. So we're a nonprofit, and PRATI stands for the Psychedelic Research and Training Institute. We've been around for about 3 years, and we do these ketamine-assisted psychotherapy trainings, as well as offering online community networking tools like a directory of CAP providers and these webinars. So education is another big component of the work that we do. And we do have, as a nonprofit, we have a vision and a purpose that I wanted to share with you. So our vision statement is PRATI imagines a world where people flourish and thrive in right relationship with the natural world. And so that's what we're about. And then our purpose is to restore connection to the sacred. And we define the sacred as self, community, nature, and spirit. So we're really kind of taking this holistic lens in the way that we approach the work that we do and that we talk about. And this, I think music can be a really powerful thread of connection in all of those ways, through nature, community, self, and spirit. So feels in alignment. I am the course director for our CAP training program and help out with the faculty as well when we do our ketamine trainings. And I'm joined by my colleague, Jason Saintnick. Jason, you want to chime in and say a little bit about what you do with PRATI?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here tonight. I'm also a lead faculty member with PRATI. I usually speak and present on clinical sitting skills, how to hold space for clients going through ketamine journeys, and also speak in conjunction with Stephen on music and the role of music in CAP. And I think in July, I'm going to be speaking on integration. So really excited to be here tonight and explore yet another Sublingual Sessions playlist.
Awesome. And I wanted to, right before I introduce our special guest here, I wanted to thank everyone who, in registering for this webinar, also donated. That really helps us out. So we really appreciate your support for the folks that donated as well. And yeah, so the last time we did this, it was just Jason and I. And this time we're thrilled to be joined by our guest curator for this edition of the Sublingual Session series, Jason, aka Jay Vetrano. So
I lost the ASIN when I met Jason Sinknacht.
Yeah, we had to change it up, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So so let's see, how do I want to dive into this? I think just before I talk a little bit more about, or before we start asking Jason questions, a couple of pointers with this. If y'all have headphones and you're able to connect them to your phones or your laptop, I recommend it because we're going to be listening to music. And my bias is that especially the types of music that we're going to listen to here just really lends itself well to that immersive headphone experience. So if you have them, plug in, and it could make this journey a little bit sweeter. So an encouragement there. We will have some time at the end for Q&A, and we'll give you opportunities to throw your questions in the chat. So I think you can, if you have questions as we're going, throw them into the chat, and our wizard behind the scenes, Scooter, is gonna be tracking those, and he'll, he'll bring those up when we get to the question part. And there is a survey at the end of this thing, so we'd love your feedback. It helps us kind of tailor the content as we go. So a little bit about the Sublingual session series for those that aren't familiar, maybe didn't join us the last time. So PRATI has a Spotify account that we call PRATI Music, where we post playlists that, up to this point have been curated mostly by Jason Sanknicht and I, that are for ketamine sessions for ketamine therapists and clients or journeyers to use for their sessions. And, I just realized that in doing that there's so many more approaches and styles and just a diversity of artistic expression that is out there in the world. And since PRATI has this platform and we really want to elevate and explore all the realms of this music for ketamine and for these, these non-ordinary states of consciousness, we didn't want it to just be us all the time curating these things. And so the idea was with Sublingual sessions that, we might do some here and there, but we really want to branch out and invite other artists, therapists, DJs, musicians to kind of guest curate playlists. And then then we have these opportunities to talk with them about it and explore and kind of geek out on the music together. So that's the idea. And this being the second one, this is the first time that we brought in someone outside of our kind of little PRATI collective here. And that brings us to Mr. Jay Vitrano. And so Jay is kind of an OG PRATI person. He was around when we founded PRATI and moved on to some other things. So
that's where we met, Stephen.
This is where we met. Yeah. And so this felt right. It felt very resonant to kind of bring you in, Jay. And I mean, I can attest to your skills as an artist and a music lover. I couldn't think of anyone else that I wanted to invite to kind of lead this off, because I just have a deep appreciation for your ear and your talent in presenting, curating, embracing all these realms of music.
Thanks.
So yeah, I'm curious, Jay, if you have anything that you'd like to share about your background, your story with music, like what kind of lights you up about music. Sure. And how did this get started for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lifelong love affair with music. Started probably when I was about 16 years old or so. I grew up near Detroit, so just a great place for music through and through. My parents didn't listen to much music, which is kind of odd. I know my mom has an affinity for Motown, having grown up near there. But my dad was the kind of person who would listen to music in the car, but like really softly, so you couldn't really hear it. And right. So around the age of 16, I just started going to shows in Detroit and really just fell in love with really seeing live music and musicians, and really started that's where I got my start. And then around the time I started college, I had some friends that were sort of falling into the nascent electronic music scene in Detroit. And I got my start bartending and working the door at these parties. A friend of mine called and was like, "Hey, you want to come work bartend at this party we're doing?" And I said, sure. And that was really eye-opening. It was
how old were you at this
so point? That would have been around 20 years old, 1920.
Okay. Right.
Just getting into college, and sort of like finding myself in this like wide open space where anything goes, and the music was so new and fresh and like so futuristic and nothing I had ever heard before. It's really started this love affair with electronic music specifically. And I've been sort of DJing and producing electronic music as a hobby. I mean, I guess I've had some professional gigs along the way, but mostly as a hobby for almost 30 years now. Starting with that sort of first introduction would have been around late 1993.
I feel you. You and I have talked about this. We share kind of similar trajectories.
Sure,
maybe a little bit off because you're a little bit ahead of me in the legacy of the scene or whatever. But
what was interesting about those times is those parties always had an ambient room. when I was getting my start. They always had an ambient room, which was really cool, you know, a place
Yep.
where you could go, similar, I'm guessing, to like what a Zendo tent feels like at a, you know, at a festival, is this place where you can go and sort of decompress and be in a place that felt a little safer, you know, compared to like the main room. And so ambient music was always a part of what we were doing from the start.
Right. Right. And Jay, just for folks that might not be aware of what's so special about Detroit and electronic music,
Sure.
can you nutshell that?
Sure. So, you know, it's considered the birthplace of techno. House music was happening in Chicago roughly around the same time. But there are these three friends that were in high school in Detroit in, say, the late early 80s, through the 80s, really, who really defined the sound of especially Detroit techno, but techno overall. There was a radio program going on at that time, done by this DJ in Detroit called the Electrifying Mojo. And late nights on the weekends, you could catch some of these early Detroit DJs mixing records, you know, late at night on that radio program. So that was around. And so really Detroit is considered one of the birthplace of techno, especially, whereas Chicago is really seen as more house music. And so it was, you know, there's a lot of pride. People in Detroit have a lot of pride for their city in general. But when it comes to electronic music, it's really seen not just by the people in Detroit, but people around the world now really see it as a mecca for dance music in general, but techno specifically.
Right. Right. And as you know, Jay, I have been going to Detroit for just that reason for 15 years now. There's a festival that happens every year. I just got back from it a few weeks ago. First one that they had in 3 years from the pandemic break, but that is like a pilgrimage. It's just such an amazing experience to go there and revel in the history and the ever advancing futuristic sound of Detroit is really what it feels like. So yeah, what a amazing pedigree and like saturation of music to have in your soul and bring to this work now. Jason, do you want to ask Jay, kind of kick in with a question there?
Yeah. Should we go into the playlist itself?
Sure.
Jay, if you could just kind of describe maybe briefly what your motivation was for this particular playlist, and kind of maybe a little bit of what went into fueling your desire, your passion for creating it.
It was really, really personal and really only for me when I started, you know. So I guess maybe I don't know, a couple of years ago I started experimenting more with ketamine for just dealing with my own depression, and sort of started using it as a tool to work with that and to sort of work with some of these feelings that I had been working through. And I wasn't finding like curated playlists out there that were resonating with me. And so, you know, as I do, I'm constantly building playlists, whether they're for something specific like this or, you know, just for fun. And so really just started, you know, putting these playlists together that I could use when I was going to do my own sort of ketamine journeys. I was working with a psychiatrist. He had prescribed me some lozenges similar to what you all do in your practices. And so I was just like trying to, I have several playlists that I use for ketamine use. And so when Stephen asked me like, hey, would you like to put something together for this? I was like, oh yeah, I've got tons of playlists. What was interesting is when I started to really try to put it together, I was like, oh wow, I don't maybe have enough, because I really wanted to tailor it for like a specific use case, which is this sort of 2-hour sublingual session, right? Whereas when I have them for myself, they're more like 3 and 4 hours long, and I can, you know, I can look up and fast forward to the next track if it's not. But for this, I really wanted it to be a self-contained, almost like it was its own piece of music, like a longish 2-hour piece of music. And so I think a lot of the inspiration just came from trying to find music that resonated with me personally, but also that could sort of reach some places that a lot of the music I was listening to wasn't reaching, to try to get to some more, I know when we've talked about it, Stephen, you've used this word cerebral, but to try to get into some more of these cerebral places, maybe some darker places that aren't so comfortable to be in. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about ketamine, right? Is this dissociative property that allows you to see these dark places about yourself and not have that emotional reaction that you have maybe in your everyday life when you're having these thoughts. But in that ketamine space, you can view them, you can see them, and you're far enough away from them that you can do it in a more almost objective way. And so I think a lot of my inspiration was trying to get at some of these harder to reach places in my psyche.
Beautiful. Yeah. And we're going to switch gears just a second here to actually listen to some of this music. But yeah, Jay, thanks for that description. I think it's helpful to like, I think what's fun about this is we're really exploring such a unique realm that feels really personal. I know when I put together playlists, they feel personal, but then everyone has their own resonance or connection to them or not, right? Or it's going to be different for each person, and they might have different resonances, like, oh, this feels more melancholic to me, oh no, that one's uplifting for me, right? It's really interesting how that works. But I think when Jason and I previewed this, what came to me was like, oh, this is like a psycho-spiritual exploration tool. That was when I'm thinking of how this might be presented, through PRATI or to clients or whatever. I was like, that was the thought that I had. So I just kind of want to put that out there. Just as
I think that's the way that I've been using it as a psycho-spiritual tool,
Right.
And when I listened to it, what struck me was how unique this particular playlist was and how different it was from the ones that Stephen, you and I have been putting together or have found, via Spotify. And it's so unique. And it's like, I come up with a word like cerebral and, introspective, and, but there's really no words to actually describe it that really hit it. You just have to listen to it. So that's what tonight is about. And just seeing this unique potential and possibility that a playlist can inhabit is just so exciting.
Absolutely. All right. So shall we find out what we're all talking about here?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Let's see. I want to make sure that I've got the settings right. Looks good. All right. I am hoping and assuming everyone can see that Spotify screen. You guys got that? All right, so we just to show you at the front end here in the description, we've got some features, introspective, cerebral, got some stuff in the way, I can't read all of that. So this is just how we're kind of framing it. So as people engage with our playlist, they get a little idea before they dive in as to kind of how they're, what they might expect from it. And then the playback crossfade, 12 seconds, that's a setting as you dig around on Spotify that you can set to allow the tracks to overlap. And then we have 12 minutes of swish time built into this. So this is a sublingual session, so people are swishing. And so that's where we're going to start off.
Stephen, can I pipe in real quick?
Yes.
Just kind of like a given rule that we strongly encourage any CAT practitioners to do is just to listen to the playlist themselves before just kind of, hitting play in a client session. Make sure you know the playlist first, and what it feels like and what it might be good for. And you may not want to use this particular playlist for, say, an IM session, right? It has this more sublingual feel to it. So get to know your playlist and give it at least once, a listen once through before just, bringing it out clinically.
Yeah, that's a great pointer. I have encountered that before too, where I'm like, this one might be good, and then I'm like, oh, actually I have to skip a lot of songs for, it's not really the right fit for this person for this moment.
Right.
So sweet. Okay, so let's put on our headphones here, and we're going to start with this opening track, which is from this artist Shuttle 358. And as we listen to it, you guys feel free to chime in anything that you want to share about it. We'll just kind of do the Mystery Science Theater thing. Can y'all hear that? Sweet. I love that this has just these like soft, organic kind of electronic sounds to open.
Yeah, it always felt like almost like forest sounds or something, but digitally produced.
This would typically be the first thing that's being played when people are just starting to swish the medicine before they're really feeling the effects. So this works really well for that. It's just such a kind of sweet tone
So the idea
setting.
being just sort of like those first 12 minutes, just sort of easing your way in.
Yep. But you're also starting to get those poppy kind of almost glitchy frequencies chiming in.
I'd like to hear what people think about that. We had a little bit of a debate about it, me and you and Jason, when we talked about it. So some people can find them distracting. I'm curious to hear how other people feel about like the clicking and the popping, and they kind of go throughout the entire playlist. So I'd be interested to hear what people think about that.
And Jay, the clicking and the popping are mostly on these shuttle tracks, correct?
A lot of them, yeah. There's some others that have it, but this is a technique that they used, I think, throughout a lot of their music.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful track. So this artist Shuttle 358, Jay, it's throughout this playlist, right?
Yeah, I do that sometimes. I just like fall in love with an artist, and then, you know, so in some sense the Shuttle 358 tracks are like maybe like the scaffolding that this playlist is built on. Maybe not, it might not be like the meat of it, but it's like the structure of it, and it's almost a theme that I was trying to keep coming back to throughout. A lot of their music feels to me like what's the right word? Just like coming back into self, or like I don't know, just has a really like sweet feeling to me. And so trying to play off the deeper, darker feelings of some of the rest of it, some things that are maybe a little more intense and make you do a little more work, and then kind of coming back into this mode of like, you know, everything's going to be okay, is I guess the way I've been trying to use their music throughout.
Like a return to center or something. So I think we talked about wanting to jump to the next shuttle track here. So this is called Models of My Life, and it is, if I'm looking at the times here, this is after the 11 or so minutes of swishing. So this is when people would be putting their eye shades on and really getting immersed in the experience.
Yeah, like just starting to drop in, eh?
Yeah. So let me get that started and we'll check it out. It's playing Lowlands. All right, try it again. There we go. No, those dogs are not in the song. And this one starts off with some of that clicking and popping. Oh, I just didn't mean to do that.
I like how this one starts to put a little more movement into it. Feels like this starts to sort of maybe guide you in a direction. And that was the intent of putting this in that sort of at that 12-minute mark is to start, you know, we're dropping in now, we're heading towards something. I don't know what that might be, but we're definitely heading towards something now.
So gentle. Very dreamlike.
Almost think of footsteps when that bass comes in,
Interesting.
like we're moving forward.
It's got them. I mean, the aesthetic of these sounds is super gentle and also so electronic. You know, I know it's that Detroit aesthetic coming through in some ways.
Yeah, I have a hard time not bringing that to all the music I choose.
Yeah, and I love it. And it's the industrial kind of vibe. You know, it sounds like a soft machine working.
So while some people might find that distracting, so after we had that conversation, I was thinking a lot about it. Like, what are those doing for me? What is this clicking and popping? Like, what? And I had this thought of maybe it's, maybe it's supposed to be distracting, right? Like maybe the part of your brain that is distracting is the frontal lobe thinking part. And so maybe some of this music is designed to distract that part of the brain, to move it aside so that the underlying music can work with your inner healer and let those two solve whatever's going on instead of always having your thinking mind being the thing, right? And maybe that's what it's doing is maybe it's working as a distraction.
Interesting. I like that. I like that idea. I love this track too. Fade this out and let's try. You want to check play the Kiln track?
That'd be great.
Okay. So this is just a couple tracks down the line here. Medicine is probably starting to build for people. Maybe not necessarily peak effects yet, but.
So one of my favorite noises with ketamine use is anything that sounds kind of scratchy. And Kiln is really great at that. I was just saying to Jason and Steven, when I first started experimenting with ketamine a couple of years ago, it was actually my wife that turned me on to Kiln, and they're a band. They're not really electronic producers, although they use electronic equipment, but they're really a band, and it just really resonated with me. And so they were kind of some of my first forays into music specifically for ketamine.
Jason, you wanted us to highlight this track. What was it that you like about this track, Jason?
Yeah, it's got almost like a kind of like a fun, playful, improvisational beat to it that kind of strays a little bit from, say, Models of My Life, where it's so regimented, or at least the beat is. It's just more playful. It's like, okay, we're entering into kind of a creative, playful, almost mischievous space.
I'm noticing, probably not for the first time, but noticing again how much delicate programming is going into all the panning and the hopping, the left and right.
Another great reason to listen to it in the headphones is to hear it in space, right? There's different things happening over here than there are, on the other side, and in the headphones. That just is such a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, the sounds are back and forth and crossing the spatial 180 degrees. Ketamine.
In fact, there's a therapy technique that I'm sure you guys are aware of called brain spotting. And specifically the music in brain spotting, there's panning that happens in that music, and it's specifically so that you will be, let me see if I can remember the science. So you'll be like sort of pushed out of that logical brain, right? And into this this subcortical space in your brain. And so brain spotting uses only panned music for that effect, but I think it's useful for ketamine use as well.
That's a cool track. All right, and then Flycatcher goes into this Detroit Escalator Company track, which there's a couple on this playlist from that artist, and I love them, but we're gonna listen to this one. Jay, I imagine these folks are from Detroit, right?
I think so. I don't know them,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, anybody who slaps the name Detroit on their music, they
Probably,
you'd probably be sure that's where they're from.
unless they're appropriating.
I love how the beat picks up with this one, kind of moving faster.
Yeah, and here's where it starts to get a little more sort of focused, I think, the music through this next section, probably the next 6 or 7 tracks. I think it's much more focused for this part of the journey, which is really starting like probably pretty close to hour number 2. They're starting out the end of the first hour.
Not sure. It might not be that far in.
Maybe
yet,
not
but-
quite, but pretty
yeah.
close.
This one's got a lot of energy to it.
I almost get this picture of like Inception, of like the buildings just turning, and like how mysterious and yeah, just creative that is. Like anything's possible.
It has this pulsing vibe. It's just kind of, it's cycling, but it's pulsing. I don't know if you feel that.
That one also feels like, since it's so short, it's almost like a break between the first 5 tracks. And like I said, like hopefully it's signifying like something new is about to start. And it's really short, and so it's almost like an intro to the middle part, I guess. That's the way I saw it.
It's a transition.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's make that transition here. And so that takes us into the Cloud Room by Pan American. This is an old artist, I think.
Mhm.
I think they're on the label Cranky, which is an ambient label.
Maybe. Now I think the sounds start to get a little bigger, and the washes are stronger, and I think really trying to stir up more. At least for me, I was trying to stir up more internally through these next, 5 or 6 tracks on the list. Oh, this big kettle drum.
Let me know if I should ever hop ahead in the track. Sometimes that's helpful. Or do you think I should let it play here?
I think he's going to come in sort of
Okay.
shortly. And that bass line just feels like a nice warm embrace when I'm listening to this. It's so nice.
Is it a live bass too? It sounds like.
Yeah, I think Pan American is another band that sort of has this sound of this sort of
Ambient band.
I think that description Chicago post-rock is probably good what they are.
And this is a longer one. It's about 7.5 minutes, so I'm just gonna hop into the middle just so you get a taste of that. It's kind of just a drawn out, like a drawn out, dreamy, like dreaming down the road kind of track.
Yeah, there's no rush to this track. There's no hurry. It's just dreamy. It's lilting. It's like reminds me of like a jazz band in the clouds. It's just We could be here for hours, right? No rush.
And it's a great place to be when you're in ketamine space, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'm just gonna
It is.
like be in here and I'm just going to be in it. And I think a lot of the music that I pick is for that reason. I just want to be sort of immersed in the music. And a lot of it, sometimes I'll even like imagine the music is like physically reprogramming me as I'm listening to it, rather than trying to think through whatever issue is on my mind or anything that I'm trying to fix or problem that I'm having, like to just like let go and be inside the ketamine space and inside the music and just allow that to just work on me for an hour or two.
Beautiful. All right, Jay, where are we going to next?
I'd love it if you skipped ahead to Yolquin. So this is one of my favorite pieces of music of all time. It's about 30 years old, and it sounds as fresh to me today as it did the first time I heard it. They're one of my all-time favorite electronic music producers, Autechre. I've seen them live a few times, which is just amazing. But they do have these forays into more ambient and more experimental music, and this one I just absolutely love. And I think it is, if there is a perfect song for ketamine space, I think this is it.
Let's check it out. Another long play here, 6.5 minutes.
I think the notes that it hits emotionally for me is like nothing else I've ever listened to.
They're just masters of sound and frequency modulation.
Yep.
And you've got that delay that's carrying those notes through.
And at the end, that it starts to break down for a while, but then it comes back to the original version of the beat, and that part is always really, I don't know, really disorienting in a really great way.
I know it's kind of sacrilegious to jump ahead in this track, but I kind of want to get folks into the meat of it.
Yeah. No, you can scan through it a little bit.
Let's see. It's just so beautiful. Let's see. The delay just stretches time.
Mm-hmm. This is what I'm talking about, this last bit.
Wow. Yeah, it's just, I just feel like time dilation and reality is like the nature of time just breaks down.
That always gets me.
I'm glad you put that on here.
It captures just the strangeness and the weirdness of ketamine space, right? It's always weird, it's always strange, and
Yeah.
that just kind of just frames that strangeness so perfectly.
Do you want to do Berlin next?
We could do that one too. It's kind of similar to the Autechre track in that way.
I think we have time
It's
to.
got, I think, a lot of the same, maybe not quite the same feeling, but I think some of the same techniques.
This is very, very delicate, poppy, kind of repetitive elements. You hear that tap, 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 tap.
I think this was one that I struggled with but after talking to you, Jay, it made your instruction made so much sense. Like, let these sounds replace your thinking mind, and just let them do the work, right? Let them kind of massage your brain instead of trying to think about it or analyze it, right?
I think there's this this idea that you're supposed to be in there doing work, right? Like you're working on something, you're working on a problem, you're working on an issue, an emotion, and you're supposed to be in there doing something. And I think it's the exact opposite. I think when I've had really good luck with ketamine and actually done good work, it's when I've been able to remove my thinking mind and let the music and the medicine work. And then afterwards is the time you want to use that thinking mind, when you're doing integration with your therapist, or that's when you want to sort of piece it back together. But I think while you're in whatever you can do to not think is probably the best space to be in.
Love that.
That part is awesome. It's like all this like kind of narrow frequency range, and then it goes and it opens up, and you get that verb of that hit, and you're in a space now.
Yeah, and I think throughout the playlist, I think that's a lot of what I was trying to do, is to try to like focus it down and then like open it up, and doing this over and over again, this contraction and then this release.
Yes. Right, and that's what's different about the music that I've chosen, is I kind of always opt for, not every track has like a lot of space, but a lot of them do. And this, you get this tension and release that's achieved through the tonality and the frequencies used, and the production techniques, right? The reverb. And
then I like doing this too, where there's like because it's so electronic focused, like to have some there's some guitars throughout, and then this one has a little bit of piano in it. And I think it's like just enough to like not lose somebody, hopefully, right? Like it's very easy to get lost, but I think having some sounds that are recognizable is comforting. And I didn't want it to be like this, like, this overpowering, like emotional 2 hours. I think having some of both is really effective.
It connects you back into the human realm a bit. Okay, so this biosphere one we want to try next.
Yeah, which is another really old one, like from way back. This one's probably 30 years old as well. I like how this one is I feel like this one has a real narrative to it for some reason. I don't know what story it's telling, but I feel like it's telling a story.
This is gosh, I wish I remember where this artist is from. It's either Nordic or like Icelandic artist, or
that feels right to me, like some Scandinavian country.
Scandinavian, yeah. And he has quite a catalog.
I love how this one just sort of builds and builds and builds, and like we were just talking about, this tension and release. About 2/3 of the way through the track, there's this nice release where the drums, like the hi-hats and the drums come in.
I'll jump to that in just a second, but how it builds.
Yeah, there's this kind of eerie build to this one with like minor notes.
It's got an unsettling vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's a little unsettling.
I think, yeah, and I think that's what I really like about this. The same way that the full playlist is doing this, like tension and release, I think happens in this one track, right, where it's really building this tension for like 50%, and then halfway through, when it switches over, I think it feels like a release to me.
Let's see. I'll try and get there. There we go. Very coasty, so that's going to be moving you through that medicine space. If you felt a little marooned before, at least you're going somewhere now.
Yep.
Really pretty track. Does it do anything different at the end, Jay? Keeps going like this.
It kind of just fades out a little.
Let's see.
From here.
Yeah, breaks down. Yeah. So we're kind of cruising through these. I wonder if there's any additional ones that you want to hear. I know we talked about playing the last one, but maybe is there anything else in between?
I think that curve track is fairly interesting. Same with actually back up to the you might play a little bit of the two before that, the Vladislav delay and the Mikkel Meadow. Those come from a very specific sort of genre of techno that's using dub, right? And so dub coming out of the reggae tradition in Jamaica, and then you've got these dub artists, and then you've got electronic artists who picked that up and have carried that in a different direction as well.
Yep.
These two tracks, I think, are squarely in that realm.
So much cross-pollination of musical approaches.
So after that, Biosphere track, which is like a real journey in and of itself, this is sort of like the pause afterwards to sort of let you sort of catch your breath for a minute. And then if you want to just go right to that next one, this one is probably more specifically dub related.
The raw track?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that one.
And so this feels very dubby to me. Comes really out of that tradition.
This one's gritty. The percussive elements are just like real crackly.
Again, that scratchy sound for some reason really works for me in the ketamine space.
Will you say more about that, Jay?
I don't know what it is. I think I just kind of came across it, somehow, because I listen to a lot of this kind of music, but it just really worked, like, for some reason. I mean, it's the same with, like, I think, drugs and music, right? Like, I think, there are specific types of music that work really well with specific types of drugs. But then you got the person involved as well, and, like, it's all very specific to who that person is. But for some reason, for me, both the clicking and the popping and these like scratchier sounds for some reason really feel good when I'm in that space.
I like them as well, and I kind of also like the ways that they challenge me. If sometimes it feels slightly uncomfortable, I feel my brain working in ways that I never normally do, and that's such a unique and curious feeling that I roll with it, But this one's real dubby. So the dub vibe is just kind of this languid kind of, like almost like outer space lounge music or something.
And so in terms of like timing, we're kind of coming to the end of like being really, really deep in it. I think that the next one, the curve track, is sort of the last real, I think everything else is more like fade out. And then I think track 18 is really the last really sort of like deep introspective track on the playlist.
This one, Jason had some thoughts about.
This was weird. It's a weird track.
I struggled with curve.
It's real poppy, or it's just got that high frequency.
Yeah.
Piece.
And so it's weird. I kind of debated, but I like it, and I like what it does. And I liked getting like one last hurrah out of my journey before kind of like coming back into my body.
One less cerebral dive.
Yeah, this one was very cerebral. I felt, and it might have been just the state of mind I was in, but I just felt I was like lost. I got lost in it. Like I didn't know when it had started or when it will end. And I was just,
it's a long one too.
Yeah, it's a really long one. Yeah.
We had this initially earlier in the playlist and we moved it later for that reason.
I liked where you ended up putting it. I think it works really well here.
So let's jump to the middle here. Not much changes, but there's more. You really focus in this one. because it's so delicate.
I wish again, I think it bears repeating. I wish I had let it replace my thinking mind, because I was kind of jumping on this track with my thinking mind, like nothing's happening or something, you know, like, but if I just let these sounds replace that judgment, like I think it would have had a different experience. But it's almost like this track needs to come with like an instruction manual of like how to let it do the work and get out of your own way with it.
And perhaps that's something that coaching that a CAP therapist might provide, not specifically per song, but just in general. Just in general.
In general.
Let the music do the work. If you find yourself, struggling or ruminating or confused or something, just focus on the sounds.
Focus on the sounds. Stay with your breath.
And so here you're like an hour and a half in, probably like 30 minutes to go, maybe a little more than an hour and a half. And so starting to come back now. And really the last 4 are trying to like we're coming back. And again, it's this like, tension release and sort of coming back home in this last bit.
I think we talked about just playing the closing track here.
Sure. Yeah, they're not similar, I guess, in the way they're designed, but they all have sort of a similar purpose. That last 30 minutes is sort of like.
And this is a 10-minute track.
Coming back and
so start to
have a body. Yes, those are my legs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like this kind of reflective but kind of regrounding track.
Yep. How can I look back at sort of what just happened over the last 90 minutes?
Yeah.
And these are the types of tracks that I look for as the closing 10-20 minutes of a playlist is atmospheric, uplifting, gentle,
human,
beautiful, soft, spacious. So excellent choice here, Jay.
Yeah.
I really love it. This is an interesting artist too. I've dug around in his or their stuff. I don't know, but I like it. And it just cycles like this.
Yeah, it doesn't do much more than that.
No, it just cycles.
It's kind of a nice space to be in as you're
absolutely.
Yeah, that could go on for half an hour and you would just be luxuriating in it.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I don't want it to stop. What a journey.
Wow.
That was a blast.
Yeah, and so that was really fun to build it that way, right? Instead of just like having a playlist, hitting shuffle, and then just kind of scanning through if it's not exactly what you're looking for. It was really interesting to try to like time it out and say, okay, this is going to be like a 2-hour journey, and like how can I sort of build it and bring it back and build it up and bring it back more like I would with a DJ set than than I would just doing like a playlist.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, we're so grateful that you donated your skills and your vision and your soul to this little project and shared something that hopefully many people will enjoy and get a lot of healing and value out of. So
yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, you did awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jay.
Yeah, it's super fun, like putting something like this out in the world, and like people are going to use it, and hopefully they're going to get something out of it in the way that I have. I know that like I had said at the top, like going through like a prolonged period of depression, and trying to work with ketamine and music, and it was really helpful to me, and it really sort of helped to bring me out of it. It took a lot of work, but this was a piece of my own healing, both this music and trying to use this substance, and then working with like trained professionals who work with these things, and it was really helpful to me. So I'm more than happy to be putting this out in the world, and hopefully some other people will get something out of it the way that I have.
Absolutely. Well, I'm getting something out of it right now. So Jason, I think you may have to hop off early here.
Yeah, I have to apologize. I have to step off, guys. But such an honor to hold space with you, Stephen, and Jay. And Jay, again, thank you so much for your contribution.
Absolutely.
Just wonderful to explore this together, and looking forward to many more in the future.
Yeah.
I'll just have to duck out for the Q&A, but yeah, thank you for all of the work that you invested into this, and we're so happy to have a new Sublingual
Awesome.
sessions playlist.
Woohoo.
Cool.
All right,
See ya.
That's great.
thanks, guys.
So we're gonna open it up to questions now. I don't know if there were questions in the chat, but that's what we've got Scooter in the background for, to let us know. And then also, I think at this point, Scooter, if you wanna allow people to open up their mics, we can do that too. No questions in chat so far. Cool. So yeah, so Scooter's gonna go ahead and open up your mics, and feel free to chime in if you have any questions. Happy to chat about it.
Yeah, I love talking about music, if you couldn't tell.
I have a quick question. First of all, I love the playlist. It's excellent. So much overlap with artists and labels I've liked, from Warp to Ghostly
Awesome.
International and
Yeah.
all that. So it really resonates. And now my friends are friends with Jeff Cantu, Ledesma, and Tarantel, and those folks here. So
Awesome.
really appreciate the structure. And I was just curious how you think of sort of phases with it, like, because of course, you know, as you were alluding to, the IM versus sublingual has such a different sort of temporal dimension. And I was wondering how you thought about kind of sounded like you sort of had those blocks where you're saying like the last 30 minutes, or did you kind of think of some of the blocks and phasing, any notes or things you thought about for that?
I was really specifically thinking about this one in terms of like this 2-hour block. Like, you know, I've done a lot of sublingual sessions. Like I said, I've been working with a psychiatrist. And so like, you know, I just had this, and you know, get it down to like a science, right? Like I know like the amount that I want to take, I know how long I'm going to be in, and really kind of thinking like, I want to like ease my way into it. Kind of thinking it more in like a, like in thirds, right? I want to like ease my way in, and then sign sort of a bigger section in the middle that's going to take me in and out, but gradually deeper. And then the last section kind of coming back out of that. So yeah, thinking of it in 3 sections over 2 hours.
Yeah, I echo that. You know, that's something that we pay attention to with all the playlists that we put out on the PRATI music, is really the arc and the phasing and the phrasing of the music, where, you know, it's going to be different based on dose and based on people's sensitivity to dose and things like that. But generally speaking, you know, you can kind of guess where people are going to be maybe at peak effects. And, you know, I try and program and sequence playlists according to that. And, you know, you just give like a rough map for people to travel through. But I like the variation. I try to put that intention into it and provide that opportunity for people to have a journey, right? You're going somewhere through phases, and rather than hitting shuffle, like that would lose the whole point, you know? So yeah, great question. Thank you for that. And glad we've got someone who kind of has an ear for this. Yeah.
Let me ask a question.
Please.
This is Rob, and I apologize for coming in late. I was with clients, unavoidable. So I may have missed the, you know, a spate of theory at the beginning, and I'm just wondering, what is the reasoning behind the technomusicology, as opposed to, for instance, drumming or a more, you know, a bassoon, you know, something is like a reedier kind of musicality.
I think there's room for all of those music. I think there needs to be more and more variety. I think that's the biggest thing, is that there needs to be a ton of variety, because the music I listen to clearly is not going to resonate with everybody. It's fairly esoteric. Some of it's a little weird. Like, it's not going to be, you know, it's for somebody, they're going to get in that space, they're going to listen to that music, and it's going to do the exact wrong thing for them. It's going to like pop them out. They're not going to be able to get into it deeper. And that's not going to work for them. And so I think, yeah, adding all kinds of different playlists, one that is more, reedy, or one that is piano music, or one that is more guitar based, or whatever. I just think having more tools in the toolbox for the therapist is absolutely necessary. One of the things that made me want to do more and more of this, and makes me want to do more and more of this and write my own music, is because there lacks, I think, one, variety, and two, I think, for a therapy where music is so centrally focused in the therapy, it almost seems to be like an afterthought in the way that playlists get put together. They're these big, like hulking, 10 hours worth of music, and you just put it on shuffle and let it go and hope for the best. Where I think, as Stephen's showing with these sublingual sessions, if you can tailor it down to something very specific, then it becomes a useful tool. Then it becomes something that you can really use for a specific purpose. So this playlist that I just put together, I think it has probably multiple purposes, but very specific, whereas it's not going to be useful in 100% of situations. And I think that's where you need tons and tons of variety and different types of music. And then when you bring in the patient or the client's perspective as well, like, only certain types of music resonate with certain types of people. And like, for me, I have broad taste, so I can listen to lots of different types of music. But for someone else, they may only have like a couple of different kinds of music that really resonate with them, and you want it to be an experience that they get a lot out of. And so tailoring the music for both the person and the situation, I think, is absolutely necessary within the psychedelic therapy space. And I think it's something that's, frankly, I think from my own vantage point, has been somewhat lacking. You see it starting to happen more and more. You see, like, with a company like Wave Paths, right, where the technology is brilliant, the way that technology works, but the music they're using isn't so great, at least from my perspective. And so if you could marry some more interesting music with that technology, then I think you really have something. And so I think we're just starting to scratch the surface with the use of music for psychedelic therapy, which is interesting because, like I said, I feel like it's such a central component to the whole process.
I've got a follow-up question then, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Given that you are techno-driven, and now I understand there's a personal predilection rather than a sort of a music theory based drive.
This is music that specifically resonated with me over the course of the last couple of years. I had a much larger playlist that I would use. It was probably like 4 hours long, and I would just scan through it. And then when Stephen asked me to do this, I kind of whittled it down to like the parts that were really working for me. And so, yeah, this is the music that I would listen to anyways. But I'm definitely interested in sort of branching out into some other forms of music that also resonate with me. Jazz is another one. And those instruments, I think, could be really useful under certain circumstances. I'm interested in the way that classical music could be used, especially since a lot of it's out in the public domain, right? So, like, I think there are spaces and people that those different types of music really work for. This one is really just personal to me.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, just a quick question. I think it's a quick question. I don't know about the answer though. Within the techno realm, I'm just remembering, I can't remember the name of the band, but it was in Melbourne, a group that was working with, I don't remember what the term was for it, but it was sort of, I wouldn't say that it was arrhythmic, but it was not keeping to time, right? So the time signature was, it wasn't a 3/4 or a 2/4 or anything like that. It was very specifically atemporal. I was wondering if you've done any experimentation with that and how you think that might actually play out.
Well, I think that I love that effect. This sort of atemporal, like, the timing is just a little bit off. I think that does what we've been talking about, which is to sort of distract your critical frontal lobe and make it focus on the fact that the music sounds off, and then there's maybe something happening behind the scenes. I think specifically with this electronic music and ambient music, I think that effect is done with the delay. The delay effect in most of these tracks has that same sort of thing to like sort of make it so it's not quite this like specific. When you're referencing techno, you're specifically referencing a 4/4 beat, right? Which is 4 beats per measure, 4 measures. It's very standard, and the beat is on the one, right? It's always on the right. And so like with ambient music, it can create more space. And I think with the use of the delay, it can give you that atemporal effect that you're talking about.
I would also say, just to the first point about musicology and electronic production techniques, digital signal processing is so powerful for me, and I think for a lot of people, sonically, immersively in non-ordinary states of consciousness facilitated by substances, specifically ketamine. If you just have like a ragtime piano and no processing, you're going to get an experience. But once you add reverb and delay and flange, and you do these delicate tweaks to things at this level of the bits and bytes,
like you were pointing out earlier, like the panning in the headphones.
Yeah, it is just hard to quantify what happens in the phenomenological experience, but it's something different. And so I think the beauty of music and what's happening in these modern production techniques is you can have artists like Nils Fromm and John Hopkins, who are classically trained but are hip to the production, to electronic music and synthesized music and these production techniques, and they merge this. So what I like to do is try and create playlists that do have so far what I've done is try to create playlists that have a wide range of elements so that they can appeal to a broad swath of people. Like, because I want to kind of, just for ease of my practice, I like to play playlists that, that I hope will work for most people. So I try and bring people in and out of realms. Like if someone says, I hate techno, I'm like, well, listen to this one, and they'll be like, oh, actually, I really like that. There's something also different between what someone's tastes are when they're in their sober waking life and what happens when they're in the medicine space. They might think they don't like something, but then it's completely different when they're in the medicine space. So you kind of encourage people to try it. But I do like to have a range within my playlist. But the idea with this series is to do what Jay was speaking to before, is create the broadest, most diverse sampling of different types of musical tools that might, that we can try and we can experiment with. So these are great questions. Thank you for those.
Yeah, thanks.
I've got a question. Hi. I've been curating IM playlists for the last few years. So I'm really excited that you guys did this
Awesome.
webinar. I'm looking forward to more. I've moved away a lot from the ambient tracks, I think, because of I get kind of, at least for my own experiences, when I'm in more of an ambient or more kind of spaced out sort of sounds, and I guess it's sort of, it feels less human, like you guys were talking about earlier. And I struggle with how to use that in a therapeutic sort of context, because there's not that human or emotive or sort of emotional element to it. And so I've been moving more towards like contemporary music, or more kind of music that evokes or invites more emotionality into this space. I'm just kind of curious, both from both your perspectives, like what the therapeutic value of those sort of like less human, less emotional, more spacey or sounds or clicking. You spoke to it a little bit, but like how you've seen that be helpful from a therapeutic perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious, Jay, how you would answer that, because we've already kind of spoken to how this works for you therapeutically, right?
When I think for me, this music has such an emotion. First of all, hi, Ashley.
Hi.
And for me, I think these have a deep, I have a deep emotional connection to much of this music, but and like we keep saying though, that's not true for everyone.
Right.
And so these have like sort of reached these really deep emotional places for me, as I've been using as this tool, where it might not for some others. In terms of like using it therapeutically, I mean, I'm not a therapist, so I've only used it on me.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, so it sounds like in your situation, it does feel very emotional for you because
Absolutely.
the way that you're connecting to the music, whereas I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh, those are really interesting sounds, but I don't feel like emotionally evoked
Yeah.
by it.
You know, it's such an interesting question, right? Music is the language of emotions. We kind of generally feel that, but beyond that, it's almost breaks down into subjectivity of like what is emotionally evocative to one person may not be to another. I tend to find that melodies that are very distinct, you know, work tonally to evoke emotions, and you've got major and minor and things like that. And so, you know, that makes sense, I think, to a lot of us, is like, oh, this is a happy melody or this is a sad melody or whatever. So I think that makes sense, but it doesn't have to stop there. It can go into these other realms where even, you know, just one note and some, you know, and a rhythm and some delays that creates an emotion too, right? So it's interesting. I think that there's a lot. I think it's just a philosophical kind of question of how what's therapeutic and what's not, and there needs to be more research done with it. But I love that we're stretching out into these other explorations of music, and that's what I love about your playlist, Jay, is that it stretches the boundaries for me, and I resonate with it as well. So it works for me too. And you know, just to be frank, I don't know how many clients I'm going to play this for.
Right.
You know, I really don't. Like, I will be looking out for them. I'll be like, you know what? I think you might really like this. In fact, I've had some in the past that I'm not working with now. They're like, oh shit, I wish that like they were around because I'd love to try this on them, you know?
Sure.
So yeah, it's interesting. But that was the idea, is we wanted to have more variety and more things to explore.
Sounds like
One more
Ashley's
thing I
going off
just
in a
wanted to
different.
add. I just wanted to add one more thing there, was
Yeah,
just to
please.
say that when I do use more ambient tracks or less emotionality, it's when people are in more like maintenance phase of their experiences, and less, because the way that I've worked is like, you know, we do sort of a clustering of several IM sessions in a row over a month, and then they move into maintenance phase. And so kind of focusing more of the emotional content of the music in that first month, because they're working through things, ketamine is new for them. And then when they go into maintenance, it's like now ketamine is maybe more of a place that they can go as like a respite into like kind of spacing out, kind of letting go of their mind for a little while. And it's relaxing and therapeutic in a relaxing sort of way, or rather than like necessarily churning through so much emotional content.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think I'm doing that intuitively as well, you know. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you for that.
If I might add a little comment, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Comment and a question, actually. So my comment is, in my own personal experiences, is that when there's a human element, well, recognizable human elemental sound too early in the playlist, it'll pull me out. And I actually am a really fast metabolizer, so I'm holding on to every moment I can when I'm in that space, right? So I like landing in it though. I like landing in that recognizable kind of like coming back into earth. I'm definitely going to use your playlist for myself. And I have one client that I'm thinking would really dig it too. But they have done more work. So maybe that is a good space for them. The clicking, I just wanted to add to that, like when I'm in the space and there's that kind of like scratchiness, I love it too. It's like, it challenges it kind of like creates a multi-dimensional experience for me.
Mhm.
And it creates this like far near kind of, I don't know, all at once kind of experience that I really enjoy. And then my question is, like I said, am a very fast metabolizer, unfortunately, and I've spaced it out. I do mega dose. It's ridiculous, but and I'm wondering. I often come down like right when it's getting really good, So I'm wondering if you've ever thought about, as you're exploring all of these different playlists, to do some. I love your descriptions, by the way. To do something that might be more suited for a fast metabolizer. And then I also have a couple clients that are slow metabolizers.
Mhm.
So that might be a little bit longer.
Mhm.
And you've got your hands full, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just putting a plug in
that's
for
really interesting.
myself.
And I think so much is dependent on the person who's going in,
Yeah.
right? So much is the type of music, like you're saying, whether you need a long runway on your way in or a longer runway on your way out. Or maybe you need to start like right in, and
Yeah.
that's really an interesting way to think about it. So for you, I would start that playlist on like track number
Yeah,
5 or 6,
exactly.
right?
That's what I was
Just
gonna
start
say.
all the way in,
Jump
right?
ahead.
And maybe move some things around if you have to,
Yep.
like, make it work for you. So I think that's something definitely to take away from this conversation, at least for me, is to continue thinking about who this is for. You're never going to hit everybody, but you're gonna you might need to structure it a little for your clients. You might need to tailor it a little more. You might need to take that one Brett Schneider track out. That might be a little too much. You may pull 3 or 4 tracks out of there and make your own playlist off of them, right? I think it can be used in many, many different ways. This one is very specific. It's specific to me. It's specific to the way that I like to journey. And, and maybe that works for a lot of people, maybe it doesn't, but clearly you're going to need to tweak it when you use it.
Mhm. I love
Yeah,
it.
I
That's a great
do
point.
usually.
And I
like,
encourage that.
sit
I
down.
absolutely, I don't have ownership over this. This isn't my music. All I did was put it in an order, and then Stephen reordered it to make it better. So if you need to I think absolutely. I think that's great that you want to take it away and make it work for you.
Yeah, I'll do a lot of my like preparation and setting and all of that work during the first couple sessions, because I know that by the time I lean back, I need to be on like track 4 or 5. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, let's see. I'm just looking. It looked like Jennifer Clark posted something in the chat. I just want to see. One thing I've noticed in very many of the cat playlists I've found is that I'm often wanting more bass low end in my experiences. I feel like this brings me in my body and is more immersive in a way that some of the more purely melodic stuff isn't.
Mhm.
I also enjoy some balance between electronic and acoustic elements. I know electronic can be warm too, but sometimes it can be a little too mechanical synthetic without some instrumentation that at least seems acoustic. The human element and enjoying some vocalizations. Yeah, I what do you have any comments or thoughts about that, Jay?
I would agree. I think especially when you're looking at sort of like electronica and ambient music, there tends to not be so much low end. The one track on there that we talked about, that Pan American track, has that really nice bass line and that really warm kettle drum, and yeah, that does feel good. And so thinking about as you're constructing your own playlist, like, yeah, how can you sort of, it doesn't need to be 15 tracks in a row like that, but how can you work some of that in for somebody where that's going to feel good to them? I think some good heavy sub bass feels good to just about anyone.
Totally.
So.
Totally agree. I love the whole sonic range, and I like to if for folks that are interested, maybe if you haven't heard any of the other PRATI music playlists that we have up there, Sublingual Sessions 1 is one that I curated, and that I really tried to get at this full range of like a really broad sonic palette. So there's some traditional like African music, and then there's also really deep and textured electronic music and ambient. And so it kind of, it really is a journey in that sense. But yeah, I feel that I like to have the I tried, with that one, I was really trying to have a palette within like you know, a lot of different styles represented within 1 2-hour playlist.
Yeah, I think that can sometimes be the problem, right? Where you're just listening to like melodic ambient track after melodic
Mhm.
ambient track. And it's really, they just all sort of wash together and you don't ever really end up going anywhere. You kind
Right.
of go to one place and then you stay there. And I think for me anyways, musically, whether I'm trying to DJ, whether I'm putting a playlist together, I
Absolutely.
always want it to go somewhere.
Yes.
I always want to take a trip, you know,
Right on.
musically, so to speak.
Well, we have maybe time for one last question if anyone has anything in mind. Thank you all so much for sticking with us.
Yeah, thanks. This was super fun. You know, 2 hours of talking about music. It's my idea of a good time.
It looks like we may be all good here, friends.
Wrap it up there.
So yes, thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be continuing to do these as we create new, as we get some new releases in the series. If anyone is a playlist curator that's inspired by what we're doing, shoot me an email, captraining@pratigroup.org, and let's talk. We'll see, you know, if there's kind of a resonance with what you're doing, and maybe we can collaborate. So thank you all for joining us. Have a great night. Thanks, Jay. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Good to be with you.